Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you are. Guys, Oscar De La Hoya. Before I get into it, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video, guys. As always, you guys know all that good stuff. Guys, Oscar De La Hoya said that Canelo Alvarez should fight David Benavidez and Jamal Charlo over Bivol and Golovkin. Now, um, for me, I agree with Oscar in the sense that if you ask me what I would rather see Canelo do, I would rather see Canelo fight Jamal Charlo and David Benavidez. I think they're more fan friendly, more fan appealing. I think they're bigger fights than the Golovkin fights. Also, I feel like he can completely clean out the 168-pound division and then move up to fight Bivol afterwards. You know, the Golovkin fight will always be there. He could also fight Golovkin if he wants after those two, but I would love to see him fight, Benavidez and Charlo. I think they're the fights that are going to really capture the imagination of the public. I think both those guys are big names now as well. I think Bivol, he's a good fighter, but I think he isn't a big name. So I don't know how much credit Canelo's going to get for beating him. He should get a lot of credit because for me, Bivol's a tougher fight than Charlo and Benavidez. I think he's more skilled. I think he's a bigger guy. I don't really think he has a huge profile or a huge name. So I don't know if Canelo does dust him off and beat him quite easy. How much credit is Canelo Alvarez going to get? So I would like to see Canelo go down the route of fighting Benavidez and Charlo, just because I think that there's guys out there that people want to see him fight. Those guys are guys that people want to see him fight, and I don't want him move up 175, then come back down and mess around with his body like that. I'd prefer Canelo to fight Benavidez and Charlo. I have a feeling he will. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just speculating. I don't know what Canelo is going to do, but I get the feeling that Canelo might just go down that route. And the reason why I say that, and I might be wrong, I might be totally wrong with my opinion, is that I think that Canelo Alvarez is probably trying to negotiate with the PBC to get the best deal possible. And he's probably trying to get as much money as he can, or as bigger offer as he can, because if he's got the two offers. Why hasn't it been announced? We're not that far away from the fight. So for me, I think it's probably a negotiation tactic to get as much money as possible. That's what the way I'm looking at it. I might be wrong. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's got nothing to do with that. But personally, I think it's to do with a negotiation tactic from Saul Canelo Alvarez. And I personally think he will go down the route of fighting Charlo and Benavidez. I think it makes sense. I do. I think they're big fights. I think they're the fights that a lot of the fans want to see as well. Even though Bivol's a great fight, I don't think they're as big. I just don't think they're as big as the Charlo and Benavidez fights. I think those fights are financially bigger. Look, Golovkin is a massive fight. If he fights Golovkin, that's always going to be a big fight because Golovkin's a big name and Golovkin's a great fighter, and there's a storyline there. They've had great fights in the past. So listen, that's always going to be a great fight. I just personally think that people want to see him fight someone different, and they think Benavidez is a problem for him. They think Charlo could be a problem for him. So if that's the case, then I would love to see Canelo Alvarez, put all that to bed and fight your Charlos, fight your Benavidez. That's what I want. That's what I want Canelo to do. If I'm honest, if you were asking me as a fan, who would I rather see? I would rather see him fight 100%. I would rather see him fight Charlo and Benavidez. I just think that I like those fights a lot better than I like the Bivol and Golovkin fight. And listen, Golovkin is a beast. There's no doubt about it. Golovkin's a great fighter. It's just that I've seen those fights already, and I'm not as interested in those fights as I am with the Charlo and Benavidez fight. That's just my personal preference. That's just what I would like to see. But again, If he goes down the Bivol Golovkin route, I have no problem with that as well. Like I said, they're still good fights. It's just what I would prefer to see, you know. I'm just talking from my own self and how what I would rather see. But I'm not I'm by no ways discrediting Bivol and Golovkin, because those fights potentially on paper are harder. You know, that route is harder. I just think there'll probably be more money in the Benavidez and Charlo route, and I think he'll get more credit because he's fighting two guys in their prime. And a lot of people are very high on Charlo. A lot of people are very high on Benavidez. And I know the kind of job that Canelo Alvarez can do on these guys. So I just want Canelo Alvarez to put all of that to bed. And I just think that there'll be more as a YouTuber as well, as a guy that, you know, makes videos on boxing. I just think that there'll be more views. So from a selfish point of view, I would prefer him to fight Charlo, because I know my videos are going to get more views if he fights Charlo's instead of Biv. Like if he fights Bivol, I don't think it's going to be as big. I can just see from when you know there was rumors about him fighting Charlo and the views that I was getting, and then when it was talk about Bivol and the views that I was getting is not as big. So from a selfish point of view, from a views point of view, from a fan's point of view, I want to see Charlo, because I just think that's a much bigger fight. However, I will say this: I think Bivol's a tougher fight. And I don't think Bivol is financially as big as your Charlo, because I think Charlo's a bigger name. There's no doubt about it. I think you'll all agree that Charlo is a bigger name than Dimitri Bivol. Not necessarily, he's not a better fighter, but he's a bigger name, and it's a fight which a lot of people have been clamoring for a while, and he's been one of the names that people think that Canelo's been ducking. So if he's ducking Charlo, and Charlo is that good, then let's see it. Which I know what happens in that fight, in my opinion. But then that's just my opinion. My opinion is not gospel. My opinion is not fact. So I'll still love to see Saul Canelo Alvarez face off against Jamal Charlo and David Benavidez. I think they would be crackers. I think there would be fights that a lot of people would be tuning in for. I think there'd be fights which a lot of people would be very interested in. So yeah, I can't wait till Canelo announces his next opponent. I get the feeling it's going to be Charlo, but again, I've been wrong many times. I'm just giving you my opinion. I'm wild guess really. But I just think that the Charlo fight, Canelo knows the Charlo fight is massive. And it doesn't make sense for Canelo to move up to 175 if he knows that he's not, because once you move to 175, there's no point of moving back down. That's why doesn't make sense to me. Why would he fight Bivol at 175, then go back down to fight Golovkin at 168? How does that make sense? I just don't see how that makes sense personally. I don't know what you guys think, but how does that make sense? For me, that doesn't make sense. Hence why, in my humble opinion, I think the Charlo and Benavidez offer seems more logical to me than the Bivol and Golovkin offer, because you're going to fight Bivol at 175, win a title there, then come back down and look to defend your undisputed championship. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't add up to me. So personally, I think Canelo Alvarez hopefully goes down the route of fighting Charlo and Benavidez. Imagine if he does that. Imagine if he fights Charlo and Benavidez. Imagine how great that would be. Like, imagine how big and how much credit you have to give Canelo to go down that route to fight Charlo and Benavidez. Like, literally, like, there's even the haters can't hate on that. Even the haters can't hate on that. That would be some run. You know, he fought Callum Smith, Avni Yildirim, Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, and then Charlo and Benavidez. Oh my God, that is some run. That is some resume. You know, people, you know, if he does that in like 1.5 years, right? Some people don't even have that resume throughout their careers. Like, they could have a 10-year career and they don't have that kind of resume. Canelo Alvarez, if he fights Charlo and Bivol, and even if he fights Bivol and Golovkin, some people don't even have that kind of resume in their whole careers. And he's potentially going to do that in 1.5 years. This guy is like, he's so underappreciated. He's so underappreciated, and we're taking him for granted, really. We're taking Canelo for granted. But when he leaves and when he retires, I think people will understand what Canelo Alvarez is doing, and what Canelo Alvarez did wasn't normal. Not every fighter can do that. Not every fighter can do that. And I think we need, as fight fans, you need to put more respect on his name. I hope he goes down the Charlo and Benavidez route. There's a lot of money being offered. I think there's 15 million more he's being offered to fight Charlo and Benavidez, but maybe he feels he can get more. And then when he hits the number that he feels is right, I think he may sign. Look, I personally think it's good money, man. I think it's great money, and I think they're both very winnable fights for Canelo, to be honest with you. So, yeah, hopefully Canelo goes down that route of fighting Charlo and Benavidez. I agree with De La Hoya in that sense that I think he should go down that route. I think it would make a lot more financial sense. I think he'd get a lot more credit, even though I think he should get massive credit for fighting Bivol, because I think Bivol is the hardest fight out of all of the names that I've mentioned. But I just think that he's not the biggest name. I think the other Benavidez and Charlo are the biggest name. So I think if he was to fight and beat them, I think the recognition from a boxing fan, hardcore fans know how good Bivol is, but like casual fans, I think Charlo and Benavidez probably would appeal to more casual fans. I think the Benavidez fight would be massive potentially because of the fact that Benavidez is you know, I think is he American Mexican? I think, yeah, something like that. So that fight would be massive. So to be brutally honest with you, I think Canelo fighting Charlo and Benavidez is massive. I think he beats both, and I think he beats both emphatically, but I would love to see him do it. I'd love to see him do it. I think they're massive fights. I do. I really do think they're massive fights. So hopefully Canelo goes down the route of fighting Charlo and Benavidez. But let's see what he decides to do. Leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.